What percentage of resting cardiac output is filtering through the kidneys at any given moment? A. 15 to 20%. B. 10 to 15%. C. 20 to 25%. D. 5 to 10%. The answer is C. 20 to 25%. The kidneys receive more blood flow than any single organ, after the liver. 20 to 25% of the cardiac output of the heart goes to the kidneys for filtration, the liver receives closer to 28%. This is especially significant considering that the kidneys account for approximately 0.5% of total body weight, while the liver makes up closer to 3% of total body weight. What is the main functional unit of the kidney? A. The glomerulus. B. The loop of Henle. C. The Bowman's capsule. D. The nephron. The answer is D. The nephron. The basic functional unit of the kidney is the nephron. The nephron is composed of the glomerulus, which is encased in the Bowman's capsule, the proximal convoluted tubule, the loop of Henle, and distal convoluted tubule. %of glucose and amino acids are resorbed in what part of the nephron? A. The glomerulus. B. The loop of Henle. C. The distal tubule. D. The proximal tubule. The answer is D. The proximal tubule. 99% of glucose and amino acids are resorbed by the proximal tubule of the nephron. The loop of Henle and the distal tubule primarily resorb electrolytes and water, while the glomerulus is strictly for filtration and does not resorb solutes. A nurse notes an elevated plasma creatinine in a patient with mild kidney impairment. How will this generally be reflected in the glomerular filtration rate, GFR? A. The GFR will rise, then decrease. B. The GFR will be elevated. C. The GFR will not change. D. The GFR will be decreased. The answer is D. The GFR will be decreased. The GFR represents the rate at which blood is filtered through the glomeruli of the kidneys. Creatinine is a waste product of muscle metabolism. Healthy glomeruli are capable of filtering creatinine very effectively, wherein creatinine is excreted in the urine. Generally, an elevated serum creatinine will be accompanied by a decreased glomerular filtration rate and is strongly predictive of kidney dysfunction. A nurse is performing the urine dip on a patient with edema. The dipstick shows 1 plus protein. The patient is not sure if this is a normal finding or not. How should they be counseled? A. Protein in the urine is a healthy sign of proper excretion. B. Any urinary protein under 3 plus is considered normal. C. No amount of protein in the urine is normal. D. Any urinary protein under 2 plus is considered normal. The answer is C. No amount of protein in the urine is normal. No amount of protein in the urine is considered normal. The capillaries of the glomerulus are covered in a thin layer of cells called podocytes. These podocytes form a very tight filtration system that, when healthy, prevent all large molecules such as proteins from passing out of the glomerulus and into the Bowman's capsule, while allowing the passage of water, electrolytes, and smaller molecules such as glucose and amino acids. What effect does aldosterone have on sodium, water, and potassium in the kidney? A. Aldosterone decreases sodium and water resorption and increases potassium excretion in the kidney. B. Aldosterone increases sodium and water resorption and increases potassium excretion in the kidney. C. Aldosterone decreases sodium and water resorption and increases potassium excretion in the kidney. D. Aldosterone increases sodium and water resorption and decreases potassium excretion in the kidney. The answer is B. Aldosterone increases sodium and water resorption and increases potassium excretion in the kidney. Aldosterone is a mineralocorticoid hormone secreted by the adrenal cortex in response to aldosterone 2. An rise in plasma angiotensin levels will affect an elevation in blood volume, and hence blood pressure, by increasing the resorption of sodium and water in the kidney and increasing renal excretion of potassium. How much urine is produced by the average adult in 24 hours? A. 1,000 to 2,000 milliliters per day. B. 1,500 to 3,000 milliliters per day. C. 500 to 1,000 milliliters per day. D. 250 to 500 milliliters per day. The answer is A. 1,000 to 2,000 milliliters per day. Explanation: while normal function is possible with a urinary output as little as 500 milliliters per day, normal urinary output is between 1,000 to 2,000 milliliters per day, with 1,200 milliliters being average with adequate fluid intake. The absorption of nutrients and electrolytes from food occurs primarily in what digestive organ? A. The liver. B. The small intestine. C. The stomach. D. The large intestine. The answer is B. The small intestine. The majority of nutrients and electrolytes from food are absorbed in the small intestine. The remaining material passes into the large intestine for further transformation into stool. The liver and stomach are important sites of digestion and metabolism but are not the primary site of nutrient and electrolyte absorption. Which of the following is the main function of the large intestine? A. Resorption of water from stool. B. Passage of stool toward the rectum. C. Housing of intestinal flora colonies. D. All of these are correct. The answer is D. All of these are correct. The large intestine serves multiple functions. Large amounts of water are resorbed from stool via aquaporins in the large intestine mucosa, and the remaining matter is passed via a series of slow waves toward the rectum for excretion. In addition, the large intestine houses trillions of both beneficial and pathogenic intestinal bacteria and fungi. What is the name of the dilated portion of the rectum where stool is stored for elimination via the anus? A. The sigmoid colon. B. The rectal ampulla. C. The haustra coli. D. The anal canal. The answer is B. The rectal ampulla. Stool that has passed through the large intestine is stored in the rectal ampulla, a dilated portion of the rectum inferior to the sigmoid colon and superior to the anal canal. From there it can be passed into the anal canal and excreted via the anus. The haustra coli are segments or pouches formed along the length of the small intestine, demarcated by the smooth muscle of the tinea coli. Which of the following is a function of the kidney? A. Production of erythropoietin. B. Elimination of metabolic waste. C. Regulation of systemic pH. D. All of these are functions of the kidney. The answer is D. All of these are functions of the kidney. The kidneys serve a wide variety of functions. They eliminate waste, including nitrogenous wastes such as urea and ammonium. They regulate systemic pH via resorption of bicarbonate from urine and excretion of hydrogen ions, and regulate blood pressure via the renin-angiotensin system, also known as the RAAS. In addition, the interstitial cells of the kidney are responsible for production of erythropoietin, the hormone that stimulates production of red blood cells. The internal anal sphincter is dash, while the external anal sphincter is dash. A. Voluntary. Voluntary. B. Involuntary. Voluntary. C. Involuntary. Involuntary. D. Voluntary. Involuntary. The answer is B. Involuntary. Voluntary. The internal anal sphincter is a ring of involuntary smooth muscle that spends the majority of its time in a state of perpetual contraction. It relaxes only when the rectal ampulla is distended. Passage of stool is then controlled by the voluntary constriction of the external anal sphincter. What is the most common cause of anovulatory infertility? A. Polycystic ovarian syndrome, PCOS. B. Stress. C. Poor nutrition. D. Hypogonadism. The answer is A. Polycystic ovarian syndrome, PCOS. In polycystic ovarian syndrome, PCOS, luteinizing hormone, LH, levels are elevated, while follicle-stimulating hormone, FSH, levels are often low. Because FSH aromatizes androgens to estrogen, low FSH will cause androgens to increase. Low levels of FSH and high androgens keep the follicle from maturing and prevent ovulation. Hypogonadism is significantly more rare, and while extreme stress and poor nutrition may inhibit ovulation, in the United States PCOS is the leading cause of anovulation, failure to release an ovule from the ovary. Which of the following hormones is a precursor for both estrogen and testosterone? A. Dehydroepiandrosterone, DHEA. B. Aldosterone. C. Dihydrotestosterone. D. Estrone. The answer is A. Dehydroepiandrosterone, DHEA. DHEA, an endogenous steroid hormone that is a precursor for both estrogen and testosterone, is synthesized from pregnenolone in the gonads, the adrenal glands, and the brain. What is the most abundant circulating steroid hormone in humans? A. Aldosterone. B. Dehydroepiandrosterone, DHEA. C. Pregnenolone. D. Cortisol. The answer is B. Dehydroepiandrosterone, DHEA. The most abundant circulating steroid hormone in the human body is dehydroepiandrosterone, DHEA. DHEA is a precursor to several important sex hormones including testosterone and estrogen. It also functions as a neuroactive steroid. Which of the following hormones is secreted by the corpus luteum in order to prepare the endometrium for implantation of a fertilized ovum? A. Estrogen. B. Luteinizing hormone. C. Pregnenolone. D. Progesterone. The answer is D. Progesterone. The hormone that is secreted by the corpus luteum in order to prepare the endometrium for implantation of a fertilized ovum is progesterone. Progesterone prevents the constriction of blood vessels to the endometrium, which in turn prevents the shedding of the endometrial lining, menses. It also alters the endometrium, converting it to its secretory phase in preparation for implantation. Which of the following is a normal value of follicle-stimulating hormone, FSH, for a menstruating adult female? A. 16.5 mAu per milliliter. B. 120.0 mAu per milliliter. C. 25.8 mAu per milliliter. D. 4.6 mAu per milliliter. The answer is A. 16.5 mAu per milliliter. Normal FSH values for a menstruating adult female are 4.7 to 21.5 mAu per milliliter. A FSH of 0 to 4 mAu per milliliter would be considered normal in a premenarchal female, while normal FSH after menopause can range from 25.8 to 134.8 mAu per milliliter. What is the function of follicle-stimulating hormone in a menstruating woman? A. It stimulates follicles of the uterus in preparation for implantation. B. It stimulates the maturation of follicles in the ovary. C. It stimulates the formation of the corpus luteum. D. It triggers the rupture and release of the mature egg from the follicle. The answer is B. It stimulates the maturation of follicles in the ovary. In a menstruating woman, follicle-stimulating hormone stimulates the maturation of follicles in the ovary. Rupture of the mature follicle and formation of the corpus luteum are both stimulated by luteinizing hormone, LH. The uterus itself does not contain follicles. Which of the following is a normal follicle-stimulating hormone, FSH level in an adult male. A. 23.4 milli per milliliter. B. 0.6 milli per milliliter. C. 18.8 milli per milliliter. D. 5.0 milli per milliliter. The answer is D. 5.0 milli per milliliter. In an adult male, normal FSH can range from 1.5 to 12.4 milli per milliliter. It may be slightly lower in children. Follicle-stimulating hormone is released from the anterior pituitary gland. Its target is the testes. Which of the following is a function of follicle-stimulating hormone, FSH, in an adult male? A. It stimulates primary spermatocytes to undergo meiosis. B. It triggers the initiation of spermatogenesis. C. It stimulates the Sertoli cells of the testes to produce androgen-binding protein. D. All of these. The answer is D. All of these. In a healthy adult male, follicle-stimulating hormone stimulates the Sertoli cells of the testes to produce androgen-binding protein, it stimulates primary spermatocytes to undergo meiosis, and triggers the initiation of spermatogenesis. Which of the following is not a function of luteinizing hormone, LH, in a menstruating female? A. It stimulates the maturation of follicles within the ovary. B. It triggers the release of the mature egg during ovulation. C. It stimulates the production of estrogen by the ovary. D. It triggers the development of the corpus luteum. The answer is A. It stimulates the maturation of follicles within the ovary. Luteinizing hormone stimulates the production of estrogen by the ovary, triggers the release of the mature egg during ovulation, and then stimulates the ruptured follicle to develop into the corpus luteum, the structure responsible for providing progesterone to the endometrium in preparation for implantation, if a pregnancy were to occur. Which of the following is a normal value for luteinizing hormone, LH, in an adult female experiencing normal menstrual cycles? A. 25.4 milli L. B. 1.5 milli L. C. 76.3 milli L. D. All of these. The answer is D. All of these. In a menstruating female, LH values can vary widely during the menstrual cycle. It is its highest at the peak of the menstrual cycle 8.7 to 76.3 milli and lowest during the luteal phase of the menstrual cycle milli-IU, L. Which of the following is a normal value for luteinizing hormone, LH, in an adult male? A. 0.2 milli-IU, L. B. 14.5 milli-IU, L. C. 11.0 milli-IU, L. D. 26.7 milli-IU, L. The answer is C. 11.0 milli-IU, L. Normal LH values for an adult male range from 1.8 to 12.0 milli-IU, L. These can be slightly lower in prepubescent males. Adult levels above 12.0 milli-IU, L can be seen in certain conditions of gonadal dysfunction, such as hypogonadism. What is the function of luteinizing hormone, LH, in an adult male? A. It triggers the conversion of testosterone into dihydrotestosterone. B. It triggers the production of testosterone by the Leydig cells in the testes. C. It triggers sperm production in the seminiferous tubules. D. It triggers the production of testosterone by the Sertoli cells of the testes. The answer is B. It triggers the production of testosterone by the Leydig cells in the testes. In an adult male, luteinizing hormone triggers the production of testosterone by the Leydig, interstitial, cells in the testes. Testosterone is converted to DHT, dihydrotestosterone, by the enzyme 5-alpha reductase. Sperm production and maturation is triggered by follicle-stimulating hormone, FSH, rather than LH in adult males. Which of the following is the most biologically active form of estrogen? A. Estriol. B. Progesterone. C. Estradiol. D. Estrone. The answer is C. Estradiol. The most prevalent and biologically active estrogen in an adult female is estradiol, E2. Estrone, E1, estradiol, E2, and estriol, E3, are three endogenously produced estrogens. Estradiol, E2, is produced by the dominant ovarian follicle during the monthly menstrual cycle and is the most potent natural estrogen. Estrone, E1, is the dominant form of estrogen during menopause. It is produced in small quantities by the ovary and the adrenal glands, and is principally derived by the peripheral conversion of androstenedione in adipose tissue. Estradiol is more prevalent in premenopausal women who are not pregnant, while estriol and estrol are both only elevated during pregnancy. Progesterone is not a form of estrogen, but rather a distinct progestogen reproductive hormone. What is the most prevalent form of circulating estrogen in a postmenopausal female? A. Estradiol. B. Estrone. C. Estrel. D. Estrale. The answer is B. Estrone. After menopause, the most predominant form of circulating estrogen is estrone, E1. Estrone, E1, estradiol, E2, and estriol, E3, are three endogenously produced estrogens. Estradiol, E2, is produced by the dominant ovarian follicle during the monthly menstrual cycle and is the most potent natural estrogen. Estrone, E1, is the dominant form of estrogen during menopause. It is produced in small quantities by the ovary and the adrenal glands, and is principally derived by the peripheral conversion of androstenedione in adipose tissue. Estradiol is more prevalent in premenopausal women who are not pregnant, while estriol and estrol are both only elevated during pregnancy. What form of estrogen is only present in pregnant females? A. Estrone, E1. B. Estrol, E4. C. Estriol, E3. D. Estradiol, E2. The answer is B. Estrol, E4. The only form of estrogen that is exclusively present in pregnant women is estrol, E4. Estriol is produced in quantities that are notable only during pregnancy. Estrol is produced at very high levels in the fetal liver, and it has been suggested that this estrogen may have a protective effect in the fetus by insulating it from the maternal estrogens. What enzyme is responsible for the conversion of androgens into estrogen? A. Amylase. B. Aromatase. C. Protease. D. 5-alpha reductase. The answer is B. Aromatase. The conversion of androgens into estrogen is performed by aromatase, also known as estrogen synthetase or estrogen synthase. 5-alpha reductase is responsible for the conversion of testosterone to dihydrotestosterone. Amylase is a salivary enzyme that breaks down starches during mastication, and protease is a digestive enzyme that aids in the breakdown of proteins. Which cells in the male reproductive tract produce testosterone? A. Spermatogenic cells. B. Leydig cells. C. Wolffian cells. D. Sertoli cells. The answer is B. Leydig cells. Leydig cells, located in the testes adjacent to the seminiferous tubules, secrete testosterone in response to luteinizing hormone, LH. Sertoli cells are also adjacent to the seminiferous tubules. They play a role in stimulating spermatogenesis in spermatogenic cells. Wolffian cells are part of the fetal male reproductive tract and do not produce testosterone. Which of the following structures are formed from the embryological Wolffian ducts? A. The seminal vesicles. B. The epididymis. C. The vas deferens. D. All of these are correct. The answer is D. All of these are correct. The Wolffian ducts are fetal urogenital structures that develop into the seminal vesicles, the vas deferens, and the epididymis. They also form parts of the bladder wall. Which of the following is not an androgen? A. Dihydroepiandrosterone, DHEA. B. 2-hydroxyestrone. C. Androstenedione. D. Dihydrotestosterone. The answer is B. 2-hydroxyestrone. All of the hormones listed, and testosterone, are androgens except 2-hydroxyestrone, which is a metabolite of estrone, a form of estrogen. Androstenedione is produced by all of the following tissues except dash. A. The ovaries. B. The adrenal cortex. C. The testes. D. The adrenal medulla. The answer is D. The adrenal medulla. Androstenedione is produced by the ovaries, the testes, and the adrenal cortex. The adrenal medulla primarily secretes epinephrine and norepinephrine. Which of the following is a normal dihydroepiandrosterone (DHEA) level in an adult female under the age of 50? A. 31 microg (dl). B. 6 microg (dl). C. 240 microg (dl). D. 398 microg (dl). The answer is C. 240 microg (dl). Normal DHEA levels in an adult female under the age of 50 range from 32 to 395 microg (dl). DHEA levels are higher in younger women and decline as women approach menopause. Which of the following is a normal dihydroepiandrosterone (DHEA) level in an adult male under the age of 50? A. 59 mcg (dl). B. 450 mcg (dl). C. 386 mcg (dl). D. 94 mcg (dl). The answer is C. 386 microg, dl. The normal DHEA levels in an adult male under the age of 50 can range from 95 to 441 microg, dl. They are highest in early adulthood and decline with age. Which of the following is not a function of progesterone during pregnancy? A. Increases the contractility of the uterus. B. Decreases maternal immune response to the fetus. C. Breast maturation and preparation for lactation. D. Inhibits lactation during pregnancy. The answer is C. Breast maturation and preparation for lactation. Progesterone serves many functions in pregnancy. It prepares the endometrial lining for implantation of the embryo, it increases the contractility of the uterus, it inhibits lactation during pregnancy, and it is thought to reduce maternal immune response to the developing fetus. Breast enlargement and maturation in preparation for lactation is facilitated by estrogen, rather than progesterone. Which of the following proteins initiates male sexual development in utero? A. Masculinization factor. B. Testis determining factor. C. Testosterone sensitizing protein. D. Male determining protein. The answer is B. Testis determining factor. Testis determining factor, also known as sex-determining region Y, SRY, protein, is a sex-determining gene found exclusively on the Y chromosome in humans. Its transcription triggers the development of male sexual characteristics in the developing fetus. The Sertoli cells of the testes secrete all of the following except A. Estradiol. B. Androgen-binding protein. C. Anti-Mullerian hormone. D. All of these are secreted by the Sertoli cells. The answer is D. All of these are secreted by the Sertoli cells. The Sertoli cells of the testes are responsible for the secretion of many substances, including anti-Mullerian hormone, androgen-binding protein, glial cell line-derived neurotrophic factor, and estradiol. Which of the following is the term used to describe the post-ejaculatory transformation of sperm via enzymes in the uterus and seminal fluid? A. Spermatozoal maturation. B. Capacitation. C. Decapitation. D. Penultimation. The answer is B. Capacitation. The process by which post-ejaculatory sperm is rendered fully mature and capable of fertilization of an ovum is called capacitation. This is where enzymes within the uterus are able to partially degrade the acrosome, the cap surrounding the head of the spermatozoa, allowing it to bind with and eventually penetrate the zona pellucida of the egg. Which of the following minerals stabilizes sperm cell chromatin? A. Zinc. B. Manganese. C. Magnesium. D. Copper. The answer is A. Zinc. The stability of sperm cell chromatin is dependent on zinc. Zinc deficiency can cause sperm to be fragile, which in turn lowers sperm count and decreases male fertility. The average ejaculate contains how many sperm? A. 500 to 800 million. B. 700 to 900 million. C. 100 to 400 million. D. 40 to 600 million. The answer is D. 40 to 600 million. What is the main source of energy for sperm cells in ejaculate? A. Starch. B. Fructose. C. Sucrose. D. Galactose. The answer is B. Fructose. The primary energy source of spermatozoa is fructose, produced by the seminal vesicle along with multiple amino acids, vitamin C, enzymes, and flavin. Where are mature spermatozoa stored before ejaculation? A. In the vas deferens. B. In the seminal vesicles. C. In the epididymis. D. In the seminiferous tubules. The answer is C. In the epididymis. Fully formed spermatozoa from the seminal vesicles are transported to the epididymis, where they are stored for 2 to 3 months. During ejaculation, Stored sperm are moved from the lower epididymis via peristaltic action of the muscle layers of the vas deferens, mixed with various fluids to form semen. Which of the following structures produces the fluids that combine with sperm to form semen? A. The seminal vesicles. B. The bulbourethral gland. C. The prostate. D. All of these are correct. The answer is D. All of these are correct. Seminal fluid is formed by several glands. The prostate contributes proteolytic enzymes, citric acid, acid phosphatase, zinc, fibrinolysin, and prostate-specific antigen. The seminal vesicles contribute various flavins, fructose, and amino acids. The bulbourethral glands secrete a mucus that allows the semen to travel rapidly through the urethra, potentially aiding its route toward the cervix. What is the reproductive function of the prostate? A. Production of fructose. B. Lubrication of the urethra. C. Aids in sperm production. D. Alkalinization of the semen. The answer is D. Alkalinization of the semen. The prostate, a fleshy endocrine gland inferior to the outlet of the male bladder, secretes a slightly alkaline milky fluid that makes up 1/3 of the volume of semen. This alkalinity helps neutralize the acid environment of the vagina, increasing the likelihood of conception. Lubrication of the urethra is provided by the bulbourethral gland, while fructose is produced within the seminal vesicles. The prostate does not take part in sperm production. Which of the following cavernous bodies in the penis contains the urethra? A. The corpus cavernosum. B. The corpus spongiosum. C. The epididymis. D. The vas deferens. The answer is B. The corpus spongiosum. The urethra travels through the corpus spongiosum, one of 3 cavernous bodies in the human penis. The other 2 cavernous bodies are a set of sponge-like erectile tissues called the corpus cavernosum. The vas deferens and epididymis are both part of the storage and transportation of semen. The vas deferens joins with the urethra in the penis to facilitate ejaculation. What nerve carries sensory information from the external genitalia? A. The inferior gluteal nerve. B. The pudendal nerve. C. The posterior femoral cutaneous nerve. D. The superior gluteal nerve. The answer is B. The pudendal nerve. The pudendal nerve transmits sensation from the external genitalia, the skin around the anus, and the perineum. It also provides motor function to several important structures in the area, including musculature of the pelvic floor, the external urethral sphincter, and the external anal sphincter. The other nerves listed do not provide any sensory or motor innervation to the genitals. Which of these lists the correct sequence of spermatogenesis? A. Spermatogonia undergo mitosis to become primary spermatids, which undergo meiosis I to become primary spermatocytes, which undergo meiosis II to become secondary spermatocytes, which subdivide to form spermatozoa. B. Spermatogonia undergo mitosis to become primary spermatocytes, which undergo meiosis I to become secondary spermatocytes, which undergo meiosis II to become spermatids, which subdivide to form spermatozoa. C. Spermatogonia undergo meiosis I to become primary spermatocytes, which undergo meiosis II to become secondary spermatocytes, which undergo mitosis to become spermatids, which subdivide to form spermatozoa. D. Spermatids undergo meiosis I to become primary spermatocytes, which undergo meiosis II to become secondary spermatocytes, which undergo mitosis to become spermatogonia, which subdivide to form tertiary spermatocytes. The answer is B. Spermatogonia undergo mitosis to become primary spermatocytes, which undergo meiosis I to become secondary spermatocytes, which undergo meiosis II to become spermatids, which subdivide to form spermatozoa. Sperm development begins with spermatogonia, undifferentiated male germ cell of the seminiferous tubules. During spermatogenesis, these cells first divide via mitosis to form two primary spermatocytes. Those cells then divide meiotically to form two secondary spermatocytes, which then undergo meiosis II to become spermatids. Spermatids then mature further to form spermatozoa via the process of spermiogenesis. Which of the following terms refers the process by which spermatids mature into motile sperm? A. Spermiogenesis. B. Meiosis II. C. Spermatogenesis. D. Meiosis I. The answer is A. Spermiogenesis. The process by which spermatids mature into motile spermatozoa is called spermiogenesis. It is the final stage of spermatogenesis. During spermiogenesis, a polarity develops within the cell, which defines the cell as having a head end and a tail end. An acrosmal cap is formed over the head of the sperm, and a tail is formed via the elongation of a centriole within the cell. What is the name for the cap-like structure that covers the head of mature spermatozoa? A. The acrosome. B. The Golgi cap. C. The zona pellucida. D. The acrogolgi sheath. The answer is A. The acrosome. The cap that forms over the head and anterior tail of the spermatozoa is known as the acrosome. It is derived from the Golgi apparatus, an organelle within the sperm cell. The acrosome prevents premature fertilization of the egg outside of the uterus. Within the uterus there are several proteolytic and glycosidic enzymes that begin to break down the acrosome, rendering it capable of fertilization. When the sperm meets the egg, the acrosome is then able to bind to the egg's zona pellucida, which triggers further breakdown of the acrosome, known as the acrosome reaction. This further breakdown releases enzymes held within the acrosome that allow the sperm to penetrate the zona pellucida, allowing conception to occur. A fetus that is in the head-down position before delivery is said to have which of the following presentations? A. Breech. B. Transverse. C. Cephalic. D. Caudal. The answer is C. Cephalic. A fetus that assumes a head-down position during labor is said to have a cephalic presentation. The infant may still be oriented in a number of directions, such as vertex position, with the occiput anterior and the face and front of the body toward the mother's spine, face presentation with the head tilted back into full neck extension, or occipito-posterior, in which the occiput is against the sacrum. In a transverse presentation, the fetus is sidelong, while a breech presentation the fetus head is superior while the legs are inferior.